Good morning. Just checking in. Are we ready to start? Want to get everyone on their way, but I don't know if we have a quorum. We do? Okay, so we're good to go? All right, yay. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. First time seeing everyone. It's great to be here. I want to welcome us to the first TDLCB meeting of 2024. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. My name is Commissioner Uribe from Orange County. I know all of you guys here, so it's so great to see you all. And I will be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to ask Commissioner Castano to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Just as a reminder, this meeting and all future TDLCB meetings will be in person. It is important for all members to attend in person in order for us to have a quorum. Members of the public are still able to provide their participation virtually, and we encourage them to do so. I'd also like to ask members that you please be mindful to turn your microphones before speaking and deactivate it after your remarks has ended. This will make sure that all of us can hear and communicate appropriately. And also, we will now move forward to our agenda review and announcements. Ms. Whittington, you are recognized.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and members. Thank you all so much for being here this morning. I first want to welcome two new members, Mr. Luis Nieves Ruiz, who is here now, and he is representing the Sunrail Customer Advisory Committee. And we also have joining us today, Corey Blowers, who's here representing Wendy Ford with the Osceola Council on Aging. Did I get that right? Or Agency on Aging? Okay, perfect. She is representing her on today. Ms. Ford could not be here, but she will be joining us for future meetings. So welcome to the new members and welcome to those of you who are returning. We do still have a couple of vacancies that we're going to be working through. But we should be able to complete our work today, especially since we do have a quorum that is present. Madam Chair, before I review the agenda, there are a couple of announcements that I'd like to share with the committee. First is I brought to the QATF when we met a couple of weeks ago an alert having to do with a bill that was passing and going through the legislative session. We're in week 6 of the legislative session. And as you all are aware, I did attend the TD Day in Tallahassee on January 18th. There are a couple of TD related bills that we are tracking and continue to track. And I talked with our board, Metro Plan Orlando board on yesterday. But the one of most importance is House Bill 1673, which is progressing. And this bill creates a new section in Chapter 427 of the Florida statutes. And it proposes amendments to the membership of the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, increasing that membership from 7 to 14 members. And it amends the requirements and qualifications for those members. The bill also amends the duties of the commission and requires that the commission provide best practices, the latest technology innovations, and preferential vendors lists to county transportation disadvantaged program managers. It requires them to annually review and conduct a performance audit of each coordinator contract and transportation operator contract in each county. It establishes a system for filing, receipt, and resolution of complaints regarding transportation disadvantage system. It also includes in its annual report a summary for each county of the number of complaints that have been filed regarding the transportation disadvantage system. It ensures that drivers of motor vehicles used to provide paratransit service attend trainings. This program will be offered and delivered by the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. The bill also provides recommendations for requirements specific to transportation service providers who provide the transportation services to these persons with disabilities. It includes such as providing training for the drivers, installing cameras on all of the vehicles, providing access to camera footage by specified persons, providing ride booking and tracking services, establishing reasonable time periods between the request and the time of service and the arrival of the transportation service provider at the location specified. It also establishes best practices and for limiting the duration of travel times. There are some transparency requirements, and it establishes an efficient system for reporting adverse incidences. The Agency for Persons with Disabilities is proposed to collaborate with the Department of Transportation to also investigate those. I bring this to your attention and call this to your attention because when this bill is passed, this is equivalent to an unfunded mandate. It's well intended. This is what many of our riders in Central Florida and around the state have requested in terms of reliable and efficient transportation, on-time performance, cameras that ensure safety have all been requested. But when you ask for this and you get it and it comes without the applicable funding for it, it creates a problem. And so the bill has passed its committees and the last stop is today. In fact, the Infrastructure Strategies Committee is in session right now. And so this well-intended bill will head to the House floor next in short order, I'm sure. And then the committee substitute for its companion, 1380, has two stops that it has not been agended yet. However, there has been an amendment to the original bill that was filed that aligns it to the House version. So it is likely that what will happen is that the House bill will be picked up by the Senate. So that is the transportation related or TD related legislation that I wanted to call to your attention.
Virginia, if we can, so, when we sat through the last meeting, we clearly sat through like almost 2 hours of comments from the public. And a lot of those issues are issues that are relevant. Now, at the same time, we're never thinking that Access Links is maliciously not complying and getting everything in order. I mean, you've got your issues from staff to your customer service, whatever the case is, technology. And let's just say this passes and it's unfunded. Do we know if our lobbyists, which is Gray Robinson, are trying to see or trying to help us see if these mandates will be funded? Because like you said, well intentions, if we can't pay for it, where are we at? And then also, what is the response if we're unable to maintain that status quo? What happens to the agency? What happens to the local agency? Where do we go? Do you know any of that?
I do not know the answer to all of your questions in totality. What I do know is that we are working with our partners and we are at least getting on the radar in terms of the effects of these bills that if they were to pass, we are notifying our Central Florida legislative delegation so that when this does come on the floor, that they're able to raise these issues before the final vote happens, because it's not just Central Florida. This is the entire state that this would impact. And so Gray Robinson has not been, we have not instructed them to specifically work on this bill. There's another one that is related to MPOs that they have been helping us with, but we are supportive of our partners at Links who would be taking the lead on this one because ultimately they would be affected, more so than the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
So my follow-up question is, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we went to Tallahassee to get more funding for ridership. Is this going to require us to try to get up before the session ends to make sure that it's funded, like, working the Senate? Or are we just hoping for the best?
Well, if there are phone calls that can be made, there are emails that can be sent to stay on their radar, and maybe Norm may have some additional information. But to your point, having to do with the urgency of this, the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage requested 5 million in additional budget authority in the budget. And it's my understanding that the House and Senate have both passed their initial proposals of their budget. And of course, the next stop is going to be budget conferences where they'll work out and negotiate their differences. Both chambers currently propose 59.3 million in CTD grant programs, which includes a $4 million proviso for the Innovative Services Grant Program. But if passed, it would still result in $1 million shortfall in the tripping equipment grant compared to current year. So, you know, we have a multitude of issues that are starting to arise here. And I'm going to let Norm speak to what Links may be doing on their side. But we are supportive in terms of bringing forward these issues and keeping it in front of our legislative delegation.
Yeah, and Norm, before you get started, Commissioner Castano had a question, and then a key thing that you said is authority to use our funds, because it's never us asking for additional funds. It's the authority to use the funds that are collected. Okay.
I know we were talking a few minutes before here, and you said there is money there. So how can we, ask for that money so that, because everything that they ask you for, that they put in the bill, that's what we need.
That's what we just discussed. That's the
Yeah.
authority. The money
Right,
there.
and for those of, we have some new members around the table, so I want to, if it's okay, Madam Chair, to be clear in the State Transportation Trust Fund, the Transportation Disadvantage Trust Fund, there are funds that are available. And each year, the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage seeks additional authority to use the money that is already there. Not necessarily for cameras, but they're seeking it for tripping equipment, and those equipment could potentially be one of those line items that it could be used for. But we need to ask for even more. Unfortunately, that has turned out to be a bargaining chip in the end. You know, we've asked for 10 million before, and it gets cut down to 4 million on this side, 6 million on that side, because there is the thought that the request is for new money, but it's not a request for new money. It's a request for money that's already existing.
There we go. Do you have any idea of any definitions of the representation of the 7 new members? When I was on the commission, although that was some time ago, we had that many commissioners at the state level, and then we reduced it just before I left. One of the biggest problems we had with a commission that had 14 members is a significant number of those members had underlying, you had to dig for it, and sometimes obvious conflicts of interest. And many of those commissioners were from 2 spots, the Tampa, St. Petersburg area, and Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Miami-Dade. And there were reasons for that. And I won't go into it, but it wasn't all positive for the commission and the people that we all serve. So do you know how they're defining who represents what? I mean, for those 7 new members?
Well, the list that is in the bill analysis includes the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Children and Families, Secretary of Economic Opportunity, Executive Director of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Secretary of Elder Affairs, Secretary of Healthcare Administration, Director of Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and a county manager or administrator who is appointed by the governor. And there was some conversation in one of the previous committee stops because it appeared to have removed those individuals who are currently serving who have disabilities. So there was some concern and some conversation that may come back. It may be amended back into the bill because there was a significant amount of conversation about not having someone or some ones on that commission who are, you know, they live that
They have the
life,
experience.
right? They have that
And
experience.
they know how the
Correct.
system's supposed to
Right.
work.
Correct. But we'll keep you posted. Madam Chair, I think Marilyn Beck had a comment.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great comment. It's one of those things I always call home rule. It's easier to govern from Tallahassee and not know what actually are the dynamics in each region. Same thing we're having with our MPOs. And,
There's a lot of money with that commission.
There's a lot of
They
money
have
with
sworn
everything.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
and so
everything- Yeah, Dan was sworn in.
we want to try to make it as transparent as possible. Miss Baldwin, I'm gonna go ahead and then Miss.
Oh,
Oh, no, okay, Miss Baldwin, you're recognized.
Okay. Thank you. I'm concerned about if these things pass, that yes, they would help persons with disabilities. But what will it cost us in the number of trips that we're able to provide? And I'm certainly not in favor of removing persons with disabilities from the commission because it's our lives you're talking about. These other people go home. They wouldn't know a client if they saw one. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Baldwin. And again, I guess it goes to the point of it's easier to govern from Tallahassee and not know the dynamics and really the intricacy of what everyone is dealing with. But at this time, I wanted to recognize Norm and give you the moment on the floor before we move forward.
And appreciate that, Madam Chair. I can tell you Lynx is very much aware of this. We are watching this very closely from Tiffany Homler, our CEO, to Dave Burrows, our COO. Very much involved with the Florida Public Transit Association. And, you know, many voices make stronger action than just one single voice. So that's who we're working through right now. In fact, there's even tomorrow, we're having a webinar on some of the impacts, ramifications, et cetera. And especially on the funding, you know, the reduction in the funding is a major concern. It seems like operations like what we have and what we all represent, we've lost money the last few years with this new realignment of how they allocate the funds. So that's something we're watching very closely. So, yeah, the main thing is we're working through the Florida Public Transit Association and making that voice heard.
Thank you, Norm. With that being said, I think we're all pretty much on the same page on that. So Ms.
Right.
Whittington, anything else that you wanted to?
Well, yes, Madam Chair, just one thing. I talked about Norm behind his back, and so it's my pleasure now to talk to him, talk about him in his face. Just before the holiday, last holiday, Access Link staff had received a reasonable accommodation request from an Access Links rider. It would have been really easy for the team to say no and to move on. But I'd like to give them a public shout out for the way that they handled that request from this young man. They researched the issue. They allowed him to come and demonstrate how them allowing the reasonable requests would not only benefit him, but potentially other passengers in the future. And this has to do with him being harnessed in the vehicle so that he does not bounce around. But I just want to publicly give an accommodation to Norm and his team and Joey and everyone else who was involved in that. I think it was a win-win-win for everyone. And I just wanted to say thank you for the way that they accommodated that young man.
Well, thank you, Virginia. So
Thank
no,
you.
the team provided the feedback, so it's okay. If you talk like that behind my back, you can do it anytime you want. So it's all well.
Well, he gets a lot of people talking behind his back.
But
always for a
again,
good thing.
it was a great team. It was a good team effort and everybody was on board and had a lot of hard questions that have to be answered, but we found a solution. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. And with that, Madam Chair, we're prepared to move forward with the.
Wonderful. We're ready for roll call. We had someone else sneak in on us, so perfect. Good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If members can please remember to use their microphone, which is the middle yellow button on your screen. Baldwin,
Present.
Campbell,
Present.
Castano,
Here.
Delano, Blowers for Ford,
Present.
Jennings,
Here.
Kirsty Ledgerwood,
Present.
Amelia,
Present.
Nueves Ruiz,
Present.
Olds,
Present.
Races, Smith,
Present.
Stone,
Present.
Uribe,
Here.
Witt,
Present.
Zubritsky.
Present.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Fantastic. I gotta tell you, these are one of the few boards where I'm not the last person called, so. So now that that completes our roll call, we want to move forward to our Quality Assurance Task Force report. Ms. Baldwin, you're recognized.
Gotcha. That's all
Okay,
I just.
thank you. Okay, good morning. The Quality Assurance Task Force met on January 30th, 2024. We had 4 action items on our agenda. The first, with our QATF officer elections, we recommended Ms. Nika Berry remain the QATF chairperson role and Mr. Wayne Olson remain the vice chair. Next, we reviewed the TDLCB bylaws and recommended some minor changes. We also reviewed the TDLCB grievance procedures with no changes being recommended. We recommended a change in the date of our May meeting from May 9th to May 16th. The committee discussed the Access Links Customer Satisfaction Survey and recommended to extend the date for submissions by 2 weeks with a new closing date of February 14th. The committee understands that this pushes our CTC evaluation to May, but we felt that it was important to do what we could to get more responses from the writers since it was tracking behind at the time of our meeting and set to close at the end of January. Ms. Whittington will update us upon things later on in the agenda. Mr. Norm Hinkling was unable to attend the QATF meeting, but he provided a printed version of the Access Links Mobility Services update, which he will present today. And our next QATF meeting is April the 23rd, 2024. And Madam Chairperson and members, this is my report. And no, I'm not Ms. Berry, but she and Mr. Olson were not able to be here, so that's why I'm reporting for you today.
Thank you, Ms. Baldwin. Are there any questions or comment from the board? Seeing none, do we need to take a vote to accept it, or are we just good to move forward? We're good to move forward. Fantastic. We're going to move on to public comments on action items. We will now hear from public comments on the action items only. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any member of the public wishes to comment or are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. Ms. Rachel, do we have any public comment cards on action items today in the room?
We've received none from the room, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Ms. Lisa, do we have anything virtually?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 2 hands raised on the virtual side, Ms. Marsha Bukala and Sheila Young, and I will unmute them in that order. So Ms. Marsha is allowed to speak now.
And Ms. Marsha, welcome. If you could please state your name and your address, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Marsha Bukala at 646 West Smith Street, Orlando, Florida. My comments are about the survey. I found out about the survey from the Greater Orlando Council of the Blind to go to Go Links, and I could not find the survey. I had to actually call Links, and I got a really nice operator. She logged on to it. She was having a hard time finding, but she walked me through it where I could finally complete it. I also asked her because I said the announcement says, you know, it's emailed to people that are on file with their email addresses. She confirmed my email address was correct. I never received the email, or it ended up in my junk mail. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, that you probably could have gotten more responses if people didn't have the issues that I ran into. Thank you.
Yes, there's a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Just hold tight, please.
Ms. Bucala, thank you so much for your comment this morning. Are you aware of your writing status? Are you ADA or TD?
ADA.
Okay, and that would explain why you personally would not have received the email. And that is because the recipients of that email were specifically the transportation disadvantaged riders. But we do appreciate your response, because every response does help us to make improvements to the system. But that does explain why you would not have received it directly.
Okay, thank you. But why is it only for the TD and not the ADA? I guess is my question.
I'm sorry.
The responsibilities of this board are for transportation disadvantaged. And that's where we primarily focus our the attention by statute, is that we are specifically for transportation disadvantaged. Of course, we are interested in all riders, which is why we do ask the question. Once you complete the evaluation, in the end, we ask the question if you are TD or ADA, because we would like to be able to identify the specific feedback as we are receiving it.
Okay.
So,
But
again,
thank
we
you for the feedback on finding the survey, and thank you for taking the time to actually call us and let us know. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much. And Miss Lisa, I think we're going to move on to the second comment, please.
Yes, that is Miss Sheila Young.
And Miss Sheila, if you'll just state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you so much. Sheila Young, 2304 Amherst Avenue, Orlando. I probably sound like a broken record, but I just have to reiterate how the service with UServe has been phenomenal. They are always on time, they're respectful, they're helpful, and it's just been a pleasure riding the system. I was in Tallahassee last week and complimented our paratransit on how just we are so fortunate to live in this area and have the service we have. And I'm glad you gave the explanation about the survey, because I too was trying to find the survey and couldn't find it. So I appreciate everything that everybody does. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It brings a smile to us to have you take a moment to thank us for that, and thank you for what you do and staying involved. And is that it, Miss Lisa, for virtual comments?
Yes, it is, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. I want to just follow up with Miss Virginia. Do we have any written comments that have come in?
We don't have any for action items, Madam Chair, but we do for general items at the end.
Okay, then we're going to move on to action items at this time. We will have 10 section items today. Ms. Whittington is a presenter for all of them. Ms. Whittington, you are recognized.
Hey, Madam Chair and members, most of these are required annually. In your agendas at tab 1 are a copy of all of the summary comments that were received during the November public meeting, and they are provided to you today for your acknowledgement. Each of these were read into the record while you were attending the public meeting on November 9th. So they are there for your approval today.
So on these items, is it one vote, or is it roll call, if you don't mind? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Each one, it's a motion requested for each one of
So
them.
each one, okay, thank you very much. All right, you guys ready? All 10, let's get going. So do we have a motion for the acknowledgement, a summary of public comments received at November 9th, 2023 Public Works Workshop? We have a motion from who? Ms. Baldwin, and a second from Commissioner Castano. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Let's go to B. Approval of the November 9th, 2023 TDLCB meeting minutes. Do we have a motion for approval? We have one from Cheryl. Do we have a second? We have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? This passes unanimously. We're going to go to section C, election of the 2024 TDLCB chairperson. Do we have a motion for approval?
Madam Chair, with this one, I just need to explain that the Metro Plan Orlando Board appoints the chairperson to the TDLCB. And then of the elected officials, Commissioner Castano and Mayor Bates, the vice chairperson is selected. And Mayor Bates would be the nominee at this point from Seminole County. So I just wanted to make sure that that is understood with this particular action.
Understood. So this is just a confirmation of the election of the vice chair, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And for the note, Miss Virginia is trying to hold us up. So here we go.
I'm not, I promise I'm not.
Confirmation of the election of the 2024 TDLCB vice chairperson. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Castano. We have a second from Ms. Baldwin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Going to section D, approval of the 2024 TDLCB membership certification. Do we have a motion for approval? Someone on the right. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the approval of the 2024 QATF members. Do we have to stop me again?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm on a roll. Do we have a motion for approval? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we're getting some attention on the right side. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Approval of the 2024 QATF chairperson and vice chairperson. Do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion for Commissioner Castano. Do we have a second?
Okay.
We have a second from Ms. Baldwin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Approval of the 2024 TDLCB bylaws. Do we have a motion for approval?
Madam Chair, I do need to take us through this one.
Okay, we are gonna pause that and we're gonna stop right there. Miss Whittington, you are recognized.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and members. The bylaws are located, or the suggested revisions to the bylaws are located in tab 5 of your agenda. We have done some cosmetic adjustments, mostly for aesthetics, but I do need to call your attention to them since there were some changes that are recommended. Under section 1, the name, we just changed that from all caps to the case, uppercase, lowercase. In Article 3, under your local coordinating board membership.
Can you give us the line number that way?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
On
think that'd be
line
easy.
13,
Line
under
13.
Article 2, name and purpose.
Okay,
Starting at line 13, again, just changing those from all caps to the uppercase in the first letter of each word. Under Article 3, local coordinating board membership, there was a adjustment there that this membership is actually outlined in the code section 41-2.012 of the Florida Administrative Code, as opposed to Florida statutes. So we have updated that information.
okay.
On line 47, under that same section, just a grammatical change there with both of those words at line 47 and line 57, hyphenation between for-profit and hyphenation between community-based. Under section 3, technical advisors and non-voting members. Item number 3 there on line 74, correcting the name of the Sunrail Customer Advisory Committee member. And we're grateful again to have Mr. Ruiz joining us now. And then number 4, we're requesting that the representative for the emergency medical services, previously it was specific to Orange County. That member has been vacant now for almost 2 years, and we have been trying very hard to get a representative from the Orange County EMS. So the request is to add Seminole EMS and Osceola CMS so that we can try to get someone from either of them who might be able to serve. And so that is a significant change at line 75 there. Moving on to section 6, attendance, the planning agency on line 94, we present a report for each local coordinating board, not necessarily a roster. That strike through at lines 96 and 97 has been moved to another section that I will call attention to in just a moment. And that comes up here under Article 5, Administration of the Local Coordinating Board, lines 130 and 131. This is consistent with Metro Plan Orlando's function in terms of our board meetings, where meetings may also be held in a hybrid virtual environment, as long as there is a physical in-person quorum in the room. And this is consistent with Florida Sunshine laws. And so upon establishment of that physical in-person quorum, those people who are joining virtually are able to participate fully in the deliberation, including casting votes. And continuing on here on section 4, voting. This voting procedures is consistent with the Metro Plan Orlando board procedures, which has been made consistent throughout each of the bylaws. And this is between lines 162 and 172, just outlining the voting procedures that it must be by voice vote with regard to the code of ethics. If anyone is aware of a professional conflict, those conflicts must be made known, and a conflict form must be filed. Under section 5, bylaws and parliamentary procedures, adding that we use the most recent edition of the Roberts Rules of Order, and that's there on line 176, and on line 178. The approved bylaws must be submitted to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. Under the board duties, also under Article 7 there, changing out the words public hearing to make it consistent with the words that we have used, public meeting or workshop. The difference between the two is that a public hearing requires that there be an official transcriber, but we do well to provide a summary of those those comments that are made at the meetings, which you have approved on today. And that the public meeting can be held immediately before or immediately following the TDLCB meeting, which satisfies that annual requirement. And we've been doing this for a number of years. And so this is just adding it into those bylaws. And this section 8 under committees, outlining that a quality assurance task force represented by at least 5 members shall be established, and that grievance committee annually shall be established. It is not something that is an option, but that this board requires those 2 committees be established. And then that other committees may be designated by the chair or chairperson. And then the last 2 changes there under Article 9 and 10 is just the removal of the words section 1 in either of those. If there's no section 2, there's no need for a section 1. And so we just made that cosmetic change. And Madam Chair and members, those are the recommended changes to the bylaws, and we would appreciate your support. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, we have a question, Ms. Baldwin.
Miss Whittington, if, and this might not be the right place to ask my question, so if it isn't, let me know. If this legislation from Tallahassee passes, particularly the one about members of the LCB being disabled or not, would that change the membership of our board too?
It would not. The proposed legislation speaks only to the membership of the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. There has not been any indication that there would be a change to the membership of the local coordinating boards, at least not yet. So I don't foresee that. This bill is left the station.
Very good, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from board members? Fantastic. Okay, so now we can get back on this roller coaster. Approval of the 2024 TDLCB bylaws that Ms. Whittington went through for us. Do I have a motion for approval? A motion. Do we have a? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. This passes unanimously. Approval of the 2024 TDLCB grievance procedures, and Ms. Whittington, you are recognized.
They are presented to you, just cosmetic changes, Madam Chair, so they look a little bit different. Content is the same, and we request your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We're moving to the approval of the 2024 TDLCB grievance committee members. Do you need to be recognized?
I don't need to be recognized. I just hope that these members saw their names on this since they were going by so quickly. That is.
Do you want to take a moment and?
I do. There is no need, Madam Chair. This group is rarely enacted, but we just want to make sure that those members are aware that they are serving on these subcommittees.
I hope you guys are aware that you are serving. Okay. Do we have a motion for approval? So do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? You guys are again at this. You're approved unanimously. And last but not least, the approval of the May 9th, 2024 TDLCB meeting date to May 16th, which Ms. Baldwin did present during her presentation. Do we have a motion for approval? We have a motion from Ms. Baldwin, a second from Commissioner Castano. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for getting us through that. We are now going to move on to presentation and status reports. The annual Sunshine Law refresher, which at this point we all could give it, but Miss Lisa, you are recognized.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my name is Lisa Smith, and I know you all know me, and I'm here representing regional partnerships and board services. So every year, it is our practice as an organization to give a sunshine refresher for the first round of committee meetings, because during the year, our various committees, we have different members come on, and it just due to membership changes, this is just something that we feel will help everyone to start off the year and we're all on the same page. So what the Sunshine Law is, it is the law that provides the public with the right of access to government proceedings and is applicable to both local and state governments. And there are three basic requirements that have to be met in order for a meeting to be considered a public meeting. One is that the meetings must be open and accessible. They have to have reasonable notice, and number three, there must be a record of the meeting. And what constitutes a public meeting
is Florida statutes, chapter 286.011 says that all meetings of any board or commission of any state agency or authority of any county, municipal, corporation at which official acts are to be taken. And the key word is official acts. And the Sunshine Law applies to our committees here at Metro Plan, our Community Advisory Committee, the Technical Advisory Committee, Municipal, our MAC, our elected officials, the TISMO Committee, and Transportation Disadvantage, which also covers our Quality Assurance Task Force that falls under the umbrella of this board, and any other special groups that are formed throughout the year. So what happens is there's a discussion between two or more members that are on the same committee about topics that could come up before any of our commissions or board in the foreseeable future. They have to take place in a public setting, and number two, they have to be posted. And it also covers various forms of communication, i.e. your emails, your text messages. Now we have to be mindful of chat chains and on the social media platforms. All of those are considered forms of communication that are covered under the Sunshine Law. So there are some exceptions that don't require posting, and that's going to be like your social gatherings, your professional organization lunches, or your private or civic organizations. We don't have to post those here because they don't fall under that umbrella. And also, if you find yourself in violation, there are some criminal penalties and civil penalties, to include payment of attorney fees, and you face the chance that any action that you voted on could become null and void. So what should you do as a committee member? Whenever you're in doubt, you can reach out to any of us on the slide there, our fearless leader, Miss Virginia, or Rachel, or myself, and we will be happy to help in any way that you need us. And that's pretty much all I have for you today, Madam Chair. And if you have any questions, I am here.
Are there any questions or comments or any clarity anybody needs on the Sunshine? Thank you for the refresher. And of course, Lisa, you're available if anybody just ever has a question to ask. Okay, thank you so much for the refresher. We are going, that does not require a vote, right? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan kickoff. Miss Taylor, you are recognized. Is Taylor here? Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry.
Here I am.
You blended with the background. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your outfit matches the paper.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
I'll stick
Taylor.
out this way. That's where the.
Here you
camera
go.
comes in.
You are recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Taylor Laurent, and I'm excited to share that we're kicking off our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our long-range plan, which is one of our core products here at Metro Plan Orlando. To kind of explain that, the MTP serves as the foundation for all of our projects and how they're federally funded throughout our region. The MTP serves as our long-term vision and identifies needs and prioritizes project solutions to be able to address those needs over a 25-year period. The top priority projects are then shortlisted onto our prioritized project list, our second core product. And as funding becomes available and the projects are ready to move forward, they're then programmed in the third core product, our transportation improvement program. You can really see how the MTP serves as that foundation, and everything builds off of that 25-year long-range plan. When it comes to our key federal requirements, I've already mentioned one. This must be a minimum of a 20-year planning horizon for this plan. It must also be updated every 5 years. It must be fiscally constrained and kind of budget conscious, and then include data in our decision-making processes. Then the plan is also multimodal and multifaceted by design. Each of the planning areas that I've got up on the screen now help shape the future of our transportation system and our key factors that we want to make sure are included to provide an overall vision for our transportation system through 2050. When it comes to our tasks and activities, in general, this is going to begin with developing our goals and objectives for the 2050 MTP. also include an evaluation of how we use our existing transportation system today, and then any future trends that we want to plan for as our region continues to grow over the next 25 years. The second half of the plan will include completing a needs assessment of all of those multimodal and multifaceted items that we talked about just a moment ago, and then developing a cost feasible plan of those projects and strategies to be adopted by the board at the completion of this process. So that's a lot of technical work, but we will have several periods of different engagement and opportunities for feedback throughout the development of the plan. The first being committee meetings just like this. You'll be getting regular updates about the 2050 MTP's development, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. For the more technical components where we need more than just 10 minutes to talk about any topic, we are going to have our MTP technical workshops, which are going to be hosted every other month to deep dive any specific topics that we need to. Then, because we know that we're a transportation-focused organization, there are subject matter experts out there who can better help us with environmental, health, other components, those interdisciplinary topics that we want to include in our plan. We'll be having interviews with those special experts throughout the development of this process as well, so we can include their insights and feedback to enhance the overall plan. And then, of course, public engagement events. We're developing our public involvement plan now, or public participation plan. We changed our acronym. And as soon as we start getting that finalized, you'll be hearing more about that as well. And as events are scheduled, you'll hear about those. So speaking of getting more information, you'll see in your agendas under tab 8, that is an example of the status report that we'll be providing throughout your agendas as general information topics moving forward. So you'll always know what's going on, what's happening, and what's coming up. So our ongoing tasks are mostly getting started because we just began this process about a month ago. And our most recent meeting was our first technical workshop, kind of doing a deep dive of the overall scope and schedule for this MTP just last week. So more information will be updated in that in your agenda packets moving forward. And as I've mentioned, we are just getting started. We're right here kind of in the beginning. Goals and objectives will be coming up very soon. But through the completion of all of this work, the plan will be completed and ready for adoption by the Metro Plan Orlando Board in December of 2025. I know that that's a lot of technical work to be able to get to the end and a lot of discussions we're going to be having. But before we get into those and kind of get into the minutia of the plans, I would ask that we reflect on the following questions. The first being, how do we want to continue growing throughout our region? What do we want our transportation system to look like as we move to 2050? How will we fund our shared regional vision? And what steps must be taken to achieve that vision? The answers to these 4 questions are going to greatly shape the outcome and results of the 2050 plan. So with that, that's the completion of my introduction to our 2050 MTP. We're going to have a lot more going forward. Do we have any initial questions today?
Do we have any questions or comments? It's a lot, but I think it's basically a moving document. It's going to be moving quite a bit, and you'll be, I'm hoping, keeping us abreast of what happens and what the outcomes are.
Yes.
I've heard this before. Commissioner Castano and I heard this yesterday, so we're kind of pros, but we know there isn't much to report because this is really starting, but I hope we get a chance as a board and what our views and what we serve for will be able to be added along the way. So that'll be great. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Taylor. We appreciate it. We're now going to move on to the TD Writer Survey result. Ms. Whittington, you are here and Norm is in the hot seat.
Well, thank you again, Madam Chair. This is really just an update. Each year you're responsible for evaluating the Community Transportation Coordinator. Part of that evaluation, we use this survey, this customer satisfaction survey as a way to hear from the riders, because many of you are not on that transportation system. You hear from your constituents, but we wanted to be able to provide a way by which you can use their voice to make the decisions, inform your decisions along the way. As you know, TransDev began providing this transportation service back June 1st of last year. So their evaluation is going to be from June 1st through December 31st of 2023. This allows us to establish a baseline for them in developing the benchmarks for the transportation disadvantaged service plan that will come next. So the surveys went out or started going out in January. When we met with the QATF, at that time, we were tracking about the same in terms of responses to the last survey that we had done in 2022. And we had a total of about 73 at the time. As you heard from Ms. Baldwin, the QATF felt very strongly about extending that, which we did until yesterday. It was supposed to close at noon. We actually left it open overnight. And I'm glad to report that as of yesterday evening, we have received 164 responses. That's compared to 74 or 77 that we received in 22, and that the survey completion rate has been about 87%. So they have gone all the way through from top to bottom in that. The 3 days that got the most responses was January 17th, January 29th, and February 12th. Those dates correspond with the first constant contact email going out, the extension of the deadline, and the reminder that there were 2 days left. And so we are very pleased with the responses that we have received. Our next steps is that you will receive a link to the evaluation where you will be evaluating the community transportation or CTC. And then in May, we will have a comprehensive report of the responses that we received to both the evaluation and to the customer service satisfaction survey. Now, you will receive, with that link that you received to do your evaluation, you'll receive the preliminary responses from the riders so that you are able to use that when you give your responses to that evaluation. And then after we receive your approval of the report in May, that will be transmitted to the CTD by the June 30 deadline. So with that, that's just an update of where we are and the effects of pushing back the survey responses. But Madam Chair, we are going to be on time to be able to do what we need to do.
That's great. It's really great. Big shout out to everyone, Ms. Baldwin and everyone else who helped push the survey, because we've all been talking about it, and then to hear it actually start to see that fruition of people taking the time to do it and complete it is a lot to be said in a world that's very fast moving nowadays. When's the anticipation of the results, like getting some of that feedback expected?
Well, since it just closed last night, we'll be working on it next week to get it in shape to send it out to you all as part of your evaluation. So by March 1st, you'll get it.
Okay, that's great. So everybody, please keep a lookout for that. And will it be on our agenda in May for us to discuss in further detail?
Yes.
Okay, great, because I'm sure all of you guys have heard back, and it's kind of nice to see what you're getting back and what we're hearing, and if we're all in the same direction.
Right.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm sorry, I didn't want to dominate. Any questions or comments from anyone else on the board? Great, seeing none. Thank you, Virginia, for that. Now we're going to move on to the Links Community Transportation Coordinator, Mr. Norm Hickling. Now you're in the hot seat. Now you're in the hot seat. See, you're getting excited. He wanted to be added to my list.
That's
Number
right.
11.
So
None?
I
Yeah.
tried. You got to give me a credit for trying. So
No.
before we start, there's some introductions I'd like to make. I know you all know Joey Hogan from the TransDev team, but also want to introduce Paul Buchanan, who is the Regional Vice President for TransDev. He's joined us today. And of course, I think you know most of our team. You got Ben Gonzalez, who's sitting around the coffee, Salita Stubbs, faithful right hand, and we got Mohammed Gad, and it's so important for him. He actually put big boy shoes on today to be here. So we're really, and then all the phone calls that we talk about, Lindy Castillo is right here, and he wanted to join us. So we got the team. But a new member of our team here at Links is our new Chief Operating Officer, and we wanted to introduce him to you. I don't know if you want to say anything, but it's Dave Burrows. He has an extensive experience and time up in New York, and so he brings all that to us. So
just want to say hello to everyone. Good to be here. Being here 1 month. Sure.
he's shy.
Good morning to everyone. A little bit shy. Yes, I'm glad to be here. Being here a month, known you to Links, Chief Operating Officer. Accepting this challenge, relocating from MTA New York City Transit up north. after 29 years service there. So I'm glad to be here and happy to be working collaboratively with you in the future. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Norm.
Thank you. So thank you, Dave. And we're learning a lot from him too. So, but again, as we do in most of our presentations, give you a kind of a good slice of everything that's going on. So we're going to talk about trip demand, that actual performance, the customer service activity, and that's the call center that Lindy does a great job and his team does a great job in managing. And just some of the things that we do as the community transportation coordinator. We want to make sure that you all know that there's a lot of agencies that we work with throughout the service area that we attend to, do compliance checks with, and then some of the technology that we're implementing, areas that we've identified, opportunities for improvement, and then obviously we'll have some questions before we close. So with that, over the last quarter, ending in December there, we've seen the trips continue to grow. We had a 14% increase in 2023 over what 2022 was. So we've managed that pretty well. And so we're pretty proud of that. With the TransDev team being here, we've come up to the point where we're now consistently at 90% or higher on our on-time performance. That gives us a lot of opportunities to start really peeling the onion, if you will, and looking at areas where we can improve even further on that, and taking care of those special need clients out there that we really need to attend to. Call center, still high call volume. About 35% of our calls coming in are asking for the estimated time of arrival. So still, that's a heavy amount. So that's where we're focusing right now from a call center standpoint on how to improve that, how to give more access to our clients, and providing them information as to where their trips are. Technology implementation, everything we're trying to do is make it customer focused, and whether it be the app, and we'll talk about some agency portals that we've just now started to roll out as a partnership between TransDev and Links, so that agencies have a lot of good information about the clients that are coming to their facility. And then just taking care of our vehicles. The fleet, COVID put us behind in renewing that fleet. We all had the supplier issues in being able to, but we're starting to get back to that point where we can go and buy new vehicles and bring them online. So just from a trip demand standpoint, 600, just a little hair over 600,000 trips completed in the year of 2023. Which was, like I said, that's a 14% increase from what we had in 2022. And we're seeing that demand stay consistent, if not increasing a little bit here in the first part of 24. But the good news story is the on-time performance. You can see in October, November, December, we're right up there in that 90% time. We're doing even better in calendar year 24. So we expect that to keep growing. Now that we've gotten it to that point with the partnership with TransDev, we know that there's areas where we can improve on. So we've starting to look at when you look at 90% on-time performance, we all know that means 10% were late. So what was the makeup of those lates, and what were the impacts? Was it employment? Was it going to Publix? Or was it going to dialysis? And obviously going to dialysis has a huge impact. So we're starting to really peel down and looking at those numbers, because we want to take care of those clients, and we don't want them to have their medical services impacted. And we recognize that. And so we are, but the first step was to get us to a consistent level of performance that we could go then and take it to a next step. Call center activity, continue to get a lot of calls. You can see in November, we had 56,000 calls. December, 53,000 calls, still answering a large majority of those. Now, some of those do drop out because of cell service, or people get tired of waiting if they have to. Maintaining, and we're not at the 3 minutes that we want. But again, when you look at the number of calls, when you look at 53,000, almost 54,000 calls, and know that 35 to 40% of those are looking for where their ride is, And that takes a long time to find that trip for that individual. If we can go and help people find their own trip and know where that trip is and what time it's going to arrive for them, that's going to help out in the lowering the average speed of answer. So that's where we're spending a lot of time and effort with the technology. And I'll talk about that here in just a couple seconds. But just a lot of our work is out there just working with different human services agencies. And I share this chart. I just want to make sure everybody understands it's not always just the clients that are riding on paratransit. We are fortunate to team up with a lot of human resources or human services agencies that are taking care of a very special clientele out there. They know how to provide that transportation for the clientele that they take care of. They do great work. In many ways, they're doing God's work and taking care of these folks. We would be in the position we'd have to transport some of those clients if it wasn't for these folks being able to go do it. Now, we work with them. So we have a contract with them. We do oversight. We help them out. We mentor as much as we possibly can. So, but they just do a great service. So if you happen to see members of any one of these groups, say thank you, because they're doing, like I said, they're doing God's work in my humble opinion. And but they're also saving us so that those are trips that we don't have to go take, but we can support them. So technology, web access. We are really in the process of pushing this, if you will, and maybe pushing is not the right word, but we want to mentor our clients and those new individuals that are coming into our system, that they can go to our website and they can get on web access, and they can actually, once they sign up and get a profile, they can track their own trips. They have a trip scheduled today, they can put their client ID in there, they have their own password, and they can see when the trip was scheduled, where that vehicle is, and they can track their own trip. They don't have to wait on hold or call customer service and go through that process. So hopefully we've made the system viable enough and easy enough and customer friendly enough that it will be a big help. And the more folks that get onto this system and track their own trips, I think it's going to be better satisfaction for them, as well as not having to have the frustration of maybe having to call in and be on hold for some period of time, or have a customer service rep search where the trip is. So we're hoping this is going to be a big benefit going into the 2024 year. In addition to this, and I don't have a slide, something that we've just come out, we started working with Betsy from the Quality Assurance Task Force. And as you all know, she is the medical representative. I've been working with her on the dialysis centers, and it's a portal that it's a web page that you can go into, and it's called My Agency Portal. And thank you, TransDev, they made that available, where an agency can actually go look at and track the trips that are coming to their, say, a dialysis center, all the trips that are coming to them that day. They can track when those trips are going to arrive, where those vehicles are, et cetera. We're just starting to roll that out. We've had a lot of success with it. With the couple that we've rolled it out to, they've liked it. The visibility is there. So we're going to get that out to all the dialysis centers first. That's our primary goal right now, as that's one of the highest trip generators. And so we'll see how that goes. And then if there's other agencies that it would be beneficial to, we can then provide it to them, such as a assisted living home, or like, say, the Lighthouse, if you will. So there's another technology tool that we can help in identifying where that trip is out there at any given time. Plus, we got the app, and I understand, Bob, you use the app to track your trips. And
yeah, it's great. I've had zero issues with it.
Perfect.
It allows me to kind of plan accordingly. Previously, I'd be waiting at the beginning of my window because it said the ride was going to be there. And a lot of times I'd be twiddling my thumbs for an hour sometimes, when I could be still in my office, working on whatever until my ride came. Perfect. This one is pretty much on the spot. all the time. So I
Excellent.
would encourage the Transdev.
And I took a risk on calling on you, but thank goodness that, just like we rehearsed it. So appreciate that. So one of the things that we've had the challenges on is the paratransit fleet. It's old. Yeah, there's no way of getting around it. We had 2.5 years of COVID. All the manufacturers, they shut down. We had an aging fleet at that time. It got older during that time, and we kept operating, and the vehicles just took a lot of abuse. We are in that process now of revamping that fleet, and thanks to a great team at Lynx, they went and found the money through grants and things of that sort. So we actually got 50 new vehicles on order right now, and they're not the little caravans, they're the big vehicles. A lot more room, a lot more capacity. So that's going to help us out in our routing and scheduling, et cetera. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. 15 or 50?
50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry
And
about
then
that.
most likely we'll have another 50 next year in FY25 funding. And we want to get back on track and get ahead of it and get our fleet into a less aged condition because it's more comfortable for our clients, better for our operators. They don't break down. There's just a lot of stress on those vehicles, and we need a newer fleet. So call center volume, the reservations and the ETAs, we've talked about that. We keep looking at ways that if we can get our clients easy access to technology that can show them where their trip is, we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions as to when their trip's going to arrive. It makes life a little easier, just like Bob was talking about. They can plan their pickup times a little bit better and maybe get some more work done if that's the case. We're doing a lot of that integration right now. And then we keep looking at our operations facility, which is, again, important, maybe not real exciting to the group here, but it's important. We need to make sure it's safe, it's operationally functional. And so we want to have a new bus wash facility. So a lot of work is going into that right now. And it keeps our vehicles looking nice. And again, makes it nice for the clients that ride as well as the operators. So with that, high volume of trips, still 50,000 plus trips on a month-to-month basis, but the on-time performance is at that 90% or better. And as I discussed, we're starting to look at the increments. 5 minutes late is one thing, 30 minutes late is a different thing, and that has a bigger impact. So we want to look at those trips that are 30 minutes or late or more and find out what's the root cause. Is it a routing thing? Was it the vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really taking a deep dive in that. So I want you all to know that, and it's kind of behind the scenes, but we want to improve our service for those clients that are utilizing our services. The vehicles are coming. We get the first ones in May, we hope, and then we should get 5 or 6 or 7 each month thereafter. So by the end of this calendar year, hopefully we'll have those brand new 50 vehicles all in place and out there doing revenue service. Maintenance team's doing a great job. They're keeping the vehicles on the street, the ones that we have currently. And with just a lot of busy stuff that we do in working with the coordinated agencies and keeping the facility going. So with that, I know that was fast and furious, but open for questions. And
Yeah, I wanted to ask something real quick, Norman, then I'll open it to the floor. Do you think possibly next month we could do a live presentation of the portal, like where we actually show it?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Next month or next
Next
meeting.
month. I know everybody doesn't want to come meet us next month, but our next meeting. And secondly, while I'm very sensitive to technology and Bob and your capacity, I know that if you are starting to look at the trend just globally, it's going back to human beings. I mean, right now, if you look, Discover Card says when you call us, you'll get a person on the line, right? And in this industry and the folks that are part of this, that's really important.
Yes.
You've got visual, you've got hearing issues, you've got a lot of things that impede them. And I'm a little old school. I still like to print things out and look at them. I still like to, talk to somebody. And I think that while there is a demographic and there are people who are very trendy, the last thing I hate is to put another app on my phone because it takes up my storage, So just, keeping that cognizant, because I think that while you've got an audience that definitely is going there, and I just went to a conference where it's about change and how long it takes people to accept change, and really even accepting it is really the first step. So we just want to make sure that we don't want to be known as, oh, well, they're just trying to move everybody technology and they don't want
No.
to talk to anybody, and you know, so I just want to make sure we're sensitive to that, because it's kind of like that COVID made everyone just kind of hide, and now the opposite's happening. People are making people go back to work. You know, people want to pick up a phone and talk to somebody. People, you know, there's nothing more annoying to me than having to go through 7 steps to finally talk to somebody when I call my credit card company, you know?
And again, that's why we're really focused on, just for those directly to that point, is why we're focused on the ETAs.
All right.
Because we still know that there's going to be people that want to talk about
Yeah,
the
we're
reservation.
gonna start on the right, and then we're gonna go right around to the left to finish. So I'll start down there, and then we'll.
If I can just add to that, I agree, and I just want to throw something else out there. With my capacity at the hospital, I have too much HIPAA sensitive information, too much state sensitive information. That's why I personally, because I'm kind of old school, I don't use the paw pass. I use tickets. That being said, as a rider, I sit in the back of the vehicle and I see the other passengers, whether it's, you know, a patient that's, or another rider that's 14 years old or 94 years old. A lot of people are using assistive technology to make their lives easier. So I understand where you're coming from, and I'm there for most of that. But everyone's using assistive technology now.
No, and I
I'm not
agree.
saying give it up and not have that voice-to-voice contact. But a lot of people are going that way, and it makes their lives easier having that assistive technology.
100%. In the end, it is helpful, but psychologically, change is probably the hardest, and everyone around this table knows what that means. And even for myself, and like I said, the first step in change is accepting that change is taking place, you know? Okay, I want to thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Moving on. Yeah, you're.
Yes, Luis Streets. I do have a question about the trip data. Is it available by either zip code or census tract area?
Available by zip code, or,
Yeah,
mean,
where you gonna pick the people? Yeah.
we could look at origin data if that's what you would like us to do.
Yeah, the reason I'm saying that, we're doing a lot of vulnerability analysis right now.
Okay.
Not only us, but a lot of private areas. So this is required for the state of Florida right now when we look at resilience. Part of that, we're looking at vulnerable populations. And I think that this information will be very valuable for us to have, to be able to pinpoint areas where we actually have to focus ahead. This is where we have some vulnerable populations in case there's an emergency, like a hurricane or like that. So I think that if it's a possibility to have something like that, we certainly want to protect the privacy of the callers. But if we have just, I think at least the number of calls by either census tract, census block group, or zip code, worst case scenario, I think will probably help us with that process.
We'll have to look at that. And it may come down to having you send me an email, and then we'll get it with our team that is able to put that type of information. Obviously, it won't be down to the personal level, but it'll be by origin as to where the trips are generated.
Which floor are you in the building?
I'm sorry?
Which floor are you in the building?
I'm on the second floor, but not the downtown. I'm over
Oh,
at
you're
the
not in
operations
downtown,
center. Yeah.
downtown. So it's like, I just thought I will take the elevator and see, you know.
Okay, so.
All right, thank Luis. Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you go first. Yes.
All right, so in reference to the vehicles, have you taken into consideration about the vehicles, those newer vehicles, any comments from the public meeting?
Yeah, the vehicles that we, that had the comments about are one of the subcontractors, and so we're still working through that portion of it. The vehicles that we're buying are the standard cutaways, that turtle tops that we are going to, you know, that have been in service for years and years and years, just the newer models. So they're very big, very accessible.
And Miss Cheryl. Oh, Ms. Baldwin. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been trying to get you to.
Ready? Mr. Norm. It's really not gonna be a tough one, but
Oh, come on.
that's me warming you up. Okay, in connection with what our caller said, when we talked about the satisfaction surveys and the fact that this board really under statute is only responsible for our TD riders, I'd like to propose that Lynx strongly look at having, as many other transit agencies do, a consumer users group as we've had in the past. I would be content if it was one where we looked at fixed route and paratransit or take them separately. But I strongly suggest that we do this.
Okay. We'll take that under recommendation, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, Ms. Cheryl.
I'd like to back up Marilyn on that also.
Okay.
Because we're both from that era where we attended those and were parts of that. And it helps get out information to the community. They may come to voice their concerns, but oftentimes they will leave with a smile on their face.
Okay.
Because they feel like, you know, things are happening in the background, which leads me to what I was going to ask, kind of old school, is years and years ago, Lynx put out a newsletter for Access Links and even had it. We tried to get it on the website, but it just, whatever. And to give some of the information like you're giving now, they're getting new vehicles and making all these changes. And are you aware of the web portal and how to use it? Those types of things so that people can go to that section of the links, you know, go links and get some of the feedback from your report and also remind them of the technology that's available to them. I have a friend who has recently started to use Access Links and she's been told that by the person on the phone that they don't have a way to track where the vehicle is. Yeah, and she knew that I'm like,
That's all we've been talking about for 20 minutes now. Okay.
I don't think that's right.
No,
So,
we can track the vehicles. Yes.
yeah, just kind of, you know, remind people that are answering the phone at the time, you know, that they can tell the person how far away they are, you know, gives you a chance to go to the bathroom or something real quick. One of those
Yeah,
things.
so we'll take that under advisement. We'll
Okay.
talk to our marketing group. You know, obviously a newsletter is it's an undertaking.
Yes, I know. I know.
And so
Yeah, but something along that line, just to refresh the riders' memories, that, you know, there's information out there.
Okay.
You know, putting flyers and vehicles and stuff that isn't, you know, done anymore and it's not.
No,
useful.
appreciate it.
But something maybe concisely on that part of the GoLinks website. Just,
Or they
you
can
know.
all come to this meeting and
Yeah.
get it right here. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you, Norm.
All right.
Thank you for answering all the questions. And we are going to move on. There is some general information in your packets from the planning grant report and also the report of operator payments, the approved 2024 Metro Plan Orlando Board and Committee meeting schedules, the Metro Plan Orlando 2024 legislative position statements, and the 2023 TDLCB attendance record for your review. I want to move on. Upcoming meetings of interest. The Metro Plan Orlando Board will meet on March 13th at 9 a.m. in this room. The Quality Assurance Task Force will meet on April 23rd at 10 a.m. here in this room. And also the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board will meet on May 16th here. And remember, that is a change from May 9th. So make sure your calendars are updated that is May 16th. At this time, I want to move on to public comments in the general nature. Rachel, do we have any public comments in the general nature? Any
I have not
cards?
received any comments from the room, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Miss Lisa, do we have any virtually?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have we have two hands raised. The first one is Mr. Jamie Mariano, and I am going to unmute him so that he can speak.
Good morning, Jamie. If you will please state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes for your comment.
Madam Chair, Mr. Mariano will be speaking through a sign language interpreter, so it may be delayed just
Okay,
a moment.
no
okay?
problem.
Lisa, has he been unmuted?
Yes, he is unmuted.
Good morning, Mr. Jamie. Madam Chair, if it's okay, if we can come back to them.
Yes,
to make
if
sure
we
that
can, Miss Lisa, the second speaker.
Yes, it's Miss Marsha Bukala.
Okay, Miss Marcia, you are recognized. If you'll just state your name and address for the record, you have 10 minutes. I mean, excuse me, 2 minutes.
It's Marcia Bucala, 646 West Smith Street, Orlando, Florida. And I just want to say that the wait time had been a big issue. It's gotten a lot better calling to make a reservation, even though it still says that it's going to be at least 10 minutes. It's usually, I would say, 5-6 minutes. So that's a huge improvement. I want to let you guys know. And I also big thumbs up to the user drivers, especially when I'm going to appointments at the cancer center at Advent Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for calling and letting us know. It's nice to hear some positive information. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
And Lisa, I'm going to go back to Jamie. Is he ready yet?
He is still unmuted, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're going to move to the written comments with Miss Virginia and hopefully we'll circle back a third time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, Mr. Mariano's comments were submitted in writing as well. He had submitted two. So I'm gonna hold on to the one in case he can make it on his own. But we also received a comment from Miss Gloria Mariano. I'm a senior citizen that would like to report that all old vehicles with outdated nav systems need to be upgraded with new nav systems equipped with Apple or Google Maps apps. The system should update regularly before all drivers begin their routes for timely pickup and drop off. The outdated nav systems often take longer routes and lead in the wrong direction, whereas human knowledge can help find the correct route for quicker and easier arrival. That is Ms. Mariano's comment. And the other written comment that we received, and we have worked with Norm and his team to make sure that he was aware of comments that were received by Ms. Cheryl McInnes, who was experiencing some late pickup times. We forwarded those over to Norm and the Access Links team, and they have helped to work through those with her, and we're expecting to have an update or a report on how that was resolved.
Thank you. And Miss Lisa, just circling back with Jamie.
Yes, Madam Chair, I still have him unmuted and he still has permission to speak.
Okay, I think yeah, let's read that one because out of respect to everyone on the board, I want to move on. So
Okay, so Mr. Jamie Mariano, he submitted two public comments within like 1 minute of one another. In summary, he's suggesting that the ride reservation window be changed or consideration be given for ride reservation windows to be changed from 24 hours to 72 hours. This would help alleviate the overwhelming number of phone calls that are being processed. He suggests that web access has limited options for making ride reservations. He suggests that Paw Pass be another option for riders to be able to book their rides, especially those who do not have access to laptops or desktop computers. And he also calls attention to the outdated GPS system on the vehicles. Madam Chair, those are his comments.
okay, and I think we understand his comments, and his wife gave comments. Okay. Thank you very much. If there is no further business, I want to conclude the meeting for today. And again, a reminder, May 16th at 10 a.m., we will meet here in the Metro Plan Orlando office, and we are officially adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello? Are you still there? Okay, because the meeting ended because the audio, I guess it never came through. So the chair literally just ended the meeting.